Okay, well, I got a decent number of slides to go through, so why don't we get started? This first start with a disclaimer. This is, you guys have been to this before. This is not meant for specific advice or recommendations, but hopefully you find it educational. But if you do need recommendations, find a qualified fiduciary, preferably financial advisor, tax professional, or attorney. And can I get a thumbs up from everybody? I post these recording and for free download and the slides. If you can give me a thumbs up that you agree to that, and I'm not getting money for it, so you're not either. Nate. Okay, excellent.
No royalties? Come on.
Let's see here. Okay, I'm gonna get, there we go, a poll. Okay. I'm going to launch a poll. This should be just it's like 8 questions, but they're really quick, and just to see where people are at. And okay, these are the questions I was asking. First one: do you contribute at least enough to get the 401k match? About half said they do. One said they don't. And then half actually max out their contributions, which is great. That's even better. Some, I know people that are still active military that prior to BRS, there's no such thing as a match. But okay, well, good. I'm not sure who said no, but maybe that no was, hopefully it wasn't, they're not wasting free money and they just don't have a match. Second question, if you don't max your 401k contributions, so you set up auto increase, nearly half have, no, more than half have not, though. That's an easy way to, people typically get raises every year, so it's nice to set that up until you're able to max contribute to the, max out the plan. And that's a pretty easy thing in most employer sponsored plans, to figure out how to set up auto increase right where you do your contribution percentage. Have you increased your investments this year? Nearly half have. I don't know. One person says, I don't know. I understand that, but if you get a raise, don't spend all of your raise. That's kind of the point, like to don't just keep inflating your lifestyle. Give some to your future self. Okay, and do you have an IRA? Good. Everybody does. Some only have a pre-tax. That's a bummer, in my opinion. I think most people, ultimately, you'll probably need both. I'm a big fan of the Roth IRA, but why I say you need both is because you might be above the income limits for your household to contribute directly to a Roth. And then that's where you need a traditional and a Roth through a backdoor, but we'll get into that later. More details in that discussion. Do you max fund your IRA annually? Good. Over half does. 40% do not. So hopefully they can change that as well. My hierarchy is saving and investing. I get the match for the 401k first, then go max out the IRA, and then come back and max, contribute more to your 401k. Because an Roth IRA, you can have better investing options, lower fees. And so that's after you get the free money from the match, that's where I'd go max out for next. Let's see, 6. Have you max funded your IRA for 2025? I ask this is important. Over half have not. Some will before tax day. So you've got until April 15th to contribute 2025 IRA contributions. Make sure when you go in there, you select 2025 because it'll default typically to the current year. So you got to make sure you select 2025 and try to max out those contributions, and then you have until tax day next year to contribute to for 2026. 7. Okay, do you have an HSA with the health savings account? Okay, and nearly half of the people do. The ones that don't, if you're retired military, you cannot because you have TRICARE. I mean, it's like I look for ways that you could do both, but no, it's not legal. but I mean, we have healthcare, so there's we've got a better deal than most anyway that allows for even early retirement. But I'm glad to see a lot of people do have HSAs. And then let's see how many. Okay, good. Um, most people invest all of it. That's great because only 4% of people use it wisely. The HSA, they usually use it and pay bills. But the best thing is that this one doesn't have a use it or lose it. You can invest it, keep your receipts, and pay yourself back years later when that money's compounded. So, okay, good. Well, these results are they're getting better over time. Okay, close that out. Okay, here's the agenda. We'll talk about different things, and I've added a little more in case people have a 403B or a 457 for certain companies as well. And then if we have time, we can go into some of the stuff on the Secure Act. I know people's parents are getting older, so inherited IRAs are probably becoming more common, unfortunately. Okay, I try to break these down into like actual vehicles. Like, what do I think of these different things? And you can use all of these, and you should, if you can, to build your rich life. The 401k, I consider that one a dump truck because there's no it's such a large amount of tax advantaged money that you can put in there compared to other accounts. It's great. And if I know too many people that I know don't take advantage, they only go up to the match because that's where the free money is. Well, it's still your money and it's still tax advantage. So if you can, contribute more. The health savings account, that one I call a fire truck because it's available immediately if you need it. But the wisest way is to pay for, especially if you're young and you don't, and there's certain things that you don't need to pay the deductible on because it's, like your physicals and stuff like that. But you have that money there if you need it. But the best thing to do is pay out of pocket, save your receipts like in a Google Drive or something like that, and then pay yourself back at 20, 30, 50 years later after that money's grown exponentially. An IRA, glad everybody does have an IRA, and Roth is my favorite. We'll get into that more. And then a brokerage account. This one I call it. I consider it tow truck because that money you pay capital gains on, some taxes, but you can pull that money anytime. So there's no 59.5 restriction. So it's a great account to pull you to normal retirement age, where then you have access to the 401k, the IRA, et cetera. And then Social Security. Okay. I consider that a civic because it's dependable and it's COLA adjusted. I cut it into a little bit off because everybody's freaked out that Social Security is going away. It can't go away. Okay. I used to think that as well, but the reality is too many people are dependent on it. And even if everybody's like, it's not a savings account that you're putting money into. Okay. Our money goes in, it goes out to people that are currently on Social Security. So it's not like you have your own Social Security account. But even if that trust fund went completely to zero, that they're expecting like 2034, 75 to 77% of Social Security is still funded by workers. So you can maybe consider a haircut, down to 75%, but Social Security is going to be there. And here's the facts on Social Security, and this is terrible. For 2/3 of Americans, Social Security is over 50% of their income in retirement. For a third of Americans, it's all of their income. A third of Americans have not saved even $10,000 for retirement. That's scary. So that's why we're doing this. So sadly, money's so taboo, but trying to change the narrative because it's important to make sure
Alan, got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Dustin.
So Social Security is one big account. It's like a one big government account. It's not like each individual account.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. How do they know how to distribute the money? Let's say if somebody work, I don't know,
You can go. Have you created your my SSA account?
I don't think so.
Okay, everybody in here needs to go in and do that as soon as possible. All you do is go in and create your account, and that way, I'd say to do it because otherwise, someone else could fraudulently go in and create your account. So you want to be in control of that. But you can, Dustin, you can go in there and see what you can get all your earnings, and you can see an estimate. In general, it estimates that you're going to work till 67. So there's better calculators you can download that will actually run. Say you want to retire early, you can have your income go up to a certain point, and even the website's gotten better, and you could have zeros for your income on a certain year out and get an estimate of where it's going to pay. And then it knows based on what you've contributed throughout the years, how much you'll get depending on when you take Social Security. You can take it early and take a 30% haircut at 62, not recommended. 67 is normal retirement age for everybody in here, I'd say. And they keep kind of pushing that out. And then 70, if you defer from 67 to 70 every year, and this is per month, it's 8% return on investment. So if you waited till 70, it's 24% higher than the paycheck than it would have been at 67. And too many people think of this like, oh, what if I don't live long enough to break even? That's not the right way to look at it, but we can go way into Social Security on a different subject. But it's better to think of it as longevity insurance. And because if you're married, the person with the higher earner should defer Social Security at the longest, so that the surviving spouse, which is typically a woman, has that higher amount forever. Okay, enough on that. Dustin, that answer your question?
Yeah. Well, is your I'm sorry. The website you said, is it my tax something?
It's myssa.gov, I believe, but you say you could just Google create Social Security account, and
Yeah.
it'll pull you right there.
Okay, I see it.
Okay. Yeah,
SSA.gov.
everybody go do that though. It's important. This is really, with all the fraud out there, that way you're in control of it. So, okay. Okay. First thing talking about is the 401k. And this is whoops. How much can you contribute this year for salary deferral? Does anybody know? It's
23 something.
that was last year. It's went up 1,000. It was 23,500 for 2025. It's 24,500 for 2026. And the catch-up contributions for the year you turn 50 and above is 8,000 instead of 7,500. And then there's an addition. It's 11,250 for ages 60 to 63 of catch-up contributions that you can do. But what's interesting is if the actual umbrella, the amount that you could contribute to 401k is 72,000 this year, up 2,000 from last year. And this doesn't account for catch-up contributions. Those are all in addition to. But how the hell are you going to get that money in if you can only defer 24.5k and you get it's a company match? The other ways to contribute, which a lot of it depends on your company, if they have a company plan that one, they do profit sharing or what's called a mega backdoor Roth, and that if you allow the plan allows for after-tax contributions and then in-service distributions, two things. So when you'd have to max out your salary deferral 24.5. And I'll go on to the next slide. And if you have your own side business, especially if it's you or just you and a spouse, solo and 401k is a great way. But I'll go into this as an example. So this is what the mega backdoor Roth is. And Viasat's going to, we finally got them to start to approve it, but our custodian's really slow and hasn't been able to get the back end fixed. So I just checked with the benefits, and they said they'll expect to start it January 1st, 2027 or April 1st, which is the start of the fiscal year. Hopefully January 1st, but keep bugging them. But at least we got it. We got the approval down. Now they just need to get get their system fixed. Okay, so
So
I use an example. Yeah.
I can understand. This is similar to the IRA backdoor.
No, this is not, nope. This is, and we'll get into the back door. This is just the plan has to allow for after-tax contributions and in-service distributions, those two things. So you've maxed out the 24,500, or typically how it works, you put in whatever percentage and some of it goes to each, but it's not traditional or Roth it's an after-tax, you've paid money on that. But with the in-service distributions, in some companies, it's great because as soon as you put that money in, it converts it to Roth. It makes it Roth. But look at how much money there's a potential in this example. Say somebody contributed the max, and they're this is assuming 50 cents on a dollar match up to 5%. This is how much they could get just with company match and max in and out, 36,000. That leaves another 35,250 available under that umbrella. So if you had that in your plan, it's a significant amount of Roth dollars that you can add. So it's definitely something to look at when you're looking at the companies, whether they offer that or not. So any questions on this? Okay, move on to the next one. And 401k, you have to contribute obviously by the end of the year. And if you're military, a lot of plans have it like Viasat. If you average across the year 10%, you'll get that full 5% match. And you could front load. So you could do 20% early on and you max out your contributions by, say, October. You're still going to get the full match. But places like the military with BRS, nope, you've got to contribute that 5% every paycheck to get the 5% match. Really stupid plans. That's one of the poor things about TSP, how it's set up. Otherwise, it's actually surprisingly good that the government did, which is unusual. But you'd have to know if you're going to a new company, check to see whether they have whether you have to contribute each month. Because I'd rather front load 8 out of 10 years, the market's up. So timing the market is more important than timing the market. So if you can get that money in sooner, great. But don't miss getting your free money, the free match. Okay. 403B plans. This is okay. So 403, that's for people like in nonprofits, schools, hospitals, churches. It's like their 401k basically. They've got an extra bonus catch up that's on top of the 50 and above catch up contributions, and it's $3,000, a limit of $3,000 a year. You have to have been with that company for 15 years plus. And it's a lifetime limit of 15K. So it's not significant, but hell, still, it's just people just don't know this stuff. And so they miss out on it, It's unfortunate. Okay. 457s. That's also people that are those same, state workers, schools, hospitals, nonprofits. It's a deferred comp program, which you can contribute both to a 403B and a 457. It's the same limits as they are. And it has a special catch-up rule as well before, quote, normal retirement age. You can basically double up your 457 contributions for those those 3 years. That's not based on Social Security retirement age. It's based on the plan retirement age, which is probably 65. So, but it's still a great deal. The beauty of a 457 is it's really a deferred comp program, unlike the 403B that has penalties if you take out, distribute before 59 and a half, or the rule of 55 we'll get into. But you can use that 457 money at any point, once you leave. It's, without a penalty. So it's a great, it's like a brokerage account that you don't get taxed on until you start using it, which is great. Okay, so this went to, somebody said they didn't get their match. Just use an example, like, have you guys ever found money like that, or like in a jacket, you're like, holy crap, there's, do you throw it away? No. Well, if you're not contributing the max to get your match, you're throwing a lot more than a 20 away. And let's take it, I'm just using an example of 100K. And let's say we're using that example of getting 50 cents on the dollar up to 5%. If you can only contribute 8%, that's $1,000 you just threw away. 6%, that's another thousand. It's $5,000 you just threw away. And it's kind of cool when you look in your 401k plan, you can see how much of that came from the employer. And over the years, that stacks up nicely. I mean, it's quite amazing. So, I mean, if you're not getting that match, you need to go fix it. And if you can't afford it, then you need to figure out your budget better, because this is free money you're throwing away. Okay, and this is, yeah, pensions work because people couldn't spend it ahead of time. Don't take a loan on your 401k. People like, people even use it for down payments. That's meant for retirement, so let it be for retirement. And then if you take a loan and you get laid off or something, you've got to pay it all back immediately, or it would be counted as a distribution. And if you're below 59.5, you'll have to pay a penalty as well. So and there's people, even entrepreneurs, they have this, there's a way you could take, it's called ROBS, ROBS, where you can use your 401k money to provide capital for. I don't like it. I think the acronym ROBS is perfect because it robs you of your retirement. Like, find other money than your retirement money to fund things. So, but if you do, I'm always there for some free counseling if you think about it. Okay. So we'll talk a little. Here's the age-related rules with these retirement accounts. And this is assuming traditional pre-tax, not Roth money, you withdraw before 59.5, you pay income tax and a 10% penalty. If you work at a company until the year you turn 55, the rule of 55 comes into play, which is awesome. And that's 55 and beyond, so 55 to 57, et cetera. But you can start using that distributing that 401k money similar to like you're already 59.5, penalty free. The other thing is, if you don't have that much money in there, but you had a lot of money in another 401k, you could roll that other money into the current company's 401k. It's got to be the current company you're employed at to use the rule of 55. But you could roll previous for other 401k money into that 401k, and then all of that's in that company's 401k and counts for what you could use. I like people to have a good, decent brokerage account as well, instead of having to use this. But it's a great way for those retiring early as a potential option for income. Required minimum distributions, those have been changing over the years. For, I'd say, everybody in here, it's currently at 75. And that's when the IRS says, I want my money. You have to start taking a portion of your pre-tax 401k and IRA out each year based on the actuary tables, so that's how you lose controlling your tax rate if you have too much pre-tax money and you're not wise about it. And we'll get the 4-year rules on. I'm going to have a separate topic just on the 5-year rules on Roth earnings and the Roth IRA, but they're each different. But if you don't have any Roth in your 401k, if you have that ability but you don't have any money, put at least $1 in, because it starts a 5-year clock before those earnings can be used tax and penalty free. Same with an Roth IRA. The first Roth IRA you open, it starts that 5-year clock, and it goes to the January 1st of that year you opened it. And once you hit those 5 years, then the earnings, if you're 59.5, can be taken out for free. But I won't get it. I'll just have a separate topic just on that, because it's complicated enough that we'll waste too much time here. Okay, and fortunately, RMDs are only for traditional accounts now. They used to be for Roth 401ks as well, but in 2024, both Roth 401ks and Roth IRAs do not require required minimum distribution, so you can pull that money when you want to and not be forced to minimum amount. Okay, let's go into some examples of how much your 401k can be worth. And I just used an example of contributing 23k for 30 years and base it on 24 payments a year, kind of like the military getting paid twice a month. 8% rate of return for those years, and your balance comes out to nearly $3 million. And I said, assuming you make it more conservative, these are pretty conservative examples, but I use just a growth of 4% until you hit RMD age, and your balance then is 4.25 million. This is how you calculate your RMDs, which you're required to start paying that the year you turn 75. It's the balance on 12/31 of the previous year divided by the life expectancy at age, which here's a table that shows this. So an example here, 75 years old, the distribution period is 24.5. So you take that value, 4.25 million divided by 24.6, you are required at a minimum to pull 172, nearly 173K that year. And that's IRS, that's income. So you're paying taxes on all that. That's why controlling that tax rate is so important. And whether you do, you're doing Roth early, and then maybe as your income goes, I'm a big fan of Roth early and in the military the entire time, because your tax advantage is so awesome. And then as you get a higher earning and you're getting the higher tax brackets, okay, now do the pre-tax, to where you defer those taxes. And then when you really retire in the gap years before you have to pay RMDs and hopefully before Social Security, you can start doing Roth conversions to move more of that money over to Roth, so you don't, you have a smaller pre-tax balance, and then those RMDs are relatively insignificant and not a huge tax burden. Okay, that was a lot of words. Questions there? None at all.
I do,
Okay, yeah.
Alan. So when I turn 75, and if I don't have an Alan Nelson to chat with, how do I know how much I have to pull out? Like, I have to do my own research, or are they gonna, like, somebody's gonna come and tell me, or?
Actually, and each so your IRAs, you can pull out whoever you have the custodian, like Fidelity or Schwab or whatever, they'd be able to tell you what your RMD is. That's a good question though, Ginger. I'm going to go verify how they actually do it, because that's easy, because it's a big penalty if you don't do it. They used to be up to 50%. Nobody ever got that penalty, but they've lowered the penalty. But now I think their enforcement is going to probably become greater. They might give you 1 year, if you didn't use your RMD. But Ginger, I'll look into that and get the specifics of how people, aside from the custodians, showing them how much they need to pull out, if there's other means that are just easy, because you shouldn't have to figure it out. That your custodian should figure it out. So
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. I forgot to say at the beginning, but if you guys, there's only a few people on camera, but I prefer actually on video, because I can see if you're bored or don't understand, or you're but it helps me when I'm presenting. But I understand some. Okay, now we kind of talked a little bit about your 401k, but here's the options of what you can do with your 401k TSP after you leave that company. You can leave it right where it is. And for most people in the military, that's what I say to do right now. Don't worry about it for TSP. Just leave it there. Make sure it's properly invested, and then can figure out later, what to do with it. If you want to roll it into an IRA, if it's a bunch of pre-tax money, I wouldn't roll it into an IRA, but you could potentially roll it into another plan as well, like we talked about. That withdrawing it, don't do it. And I know some people, if they have less than $5,000, they're just going to cut you a check for that amount. But most people hopefully have more than that. Don't spend it. Like I said, that's your retirement money. because you're just throwing money away, especially if you're paying a 10% penalty. Why I say don't roll the pre-tax money into an IRA, because this prevents doing the backdoor Roth as your income goes above the ability to do a contribution directly to a Roth, and we'll get into that. But I want to touch on the health savings account first. So here's how it's updated. It's quadruple tax advantaged. This thing is awesome because it comes out tax free. And you don't pay FICA taxes if it comes out of your paycheck. It grows tax deferred. And then if you use it on medical, anything medical, it's like a Roth. All that tax deferred growth is tax free. So it's like having a traditional and a Roth at the same time. There's no better vehicle as far as tax advantage than an HSA. Retired military, unfortunately, we can't use this, but for people that are not retired, this is something to definitely look at. But your plan has to have a high deductible health plan, but especially when you're young and healthy, and and you don't have to pay for physicals and stuff anyway. That's part of the Affordable Care Act changed it so that you don't have to pay for those either. Those basic things that you should check up every year. There's a number of things that are covered anyway. So the problem is I know people that have the high deductible health plan, and they just don't want to spend any money, so they don't go to the doctor at all. That's stupid. Wealth without health means nothing. So be smart, take care of yourself, because that's what's most important. But FSA, and now the military offers an FSA, both dependent care FSA and a flexible spending account. Flexible spending accounts are use it or lose it. They're tax free, but you got to kind of figure out how much are you going to spend in a year, and it's how much you're going to. But it's, heck, that's potentially 30 to 40% savings relatively using an FSA versus paying out of pocket. So those limits have went up. It's $3,400 this year, and then for dependent care FSA, that's for children that are under 13, and if you had dependent, aging adults, those can count as well. But some really good deals here. So for those that have an HSA, most often you also have a limited use FSA. So like I said, I want everybody with an HSA to invest that money and then hang on to the receipts, pay themselves back years later when it's grown. But for a limited use FSA, which you can use for dental and vision, you can use money, a limited use FSA, and pay those with that tax-free money. And then a lot of people, like there's like I said, it's use it or lose it with some carryover, but you can also, there's like FSA stores where you can go buy, like, whether it's over-the-counter drugs, it's all the kind of stuff that, so you don't lose that money. But it's a great advantage. And I'm stunned how much more like dental insurance sucks. So I can't believe how much I spend on dental. And if you do any, like I did the Invisalign a couple of years ago, they only cover up to $2,000, a maximum and 50%. So that's going to be a big bill right there. And then you have retainers for life, so anyway, it's a great deal. Take advantage of it. And even if you have the FSA, think about how much you're going to spend in dental and vision, and you can use that tax-free money there. Questions?
Sorry, Alan. Sorry, you keep saying keep the receipts and pay yourself back later. I don't understand what you mean by that.
Okay, so you can well, unfortunately for you, you can't, because you can't use an HSA, but you could keep your receipts and then just you'll use the money. You can pay yourself back. So you've got that HSA account, and you can pay yourself back into your own bank account from your HSA account with the amount. Okay, I spent, say, I'm just using numbers, $1,000 on this procedure, and that money you paid out of pocket, years later you can pull from that HSA and go, no, thank you, I'll take that money back. But that's
I
after
get
it's
you.
grown. So that's why I love, idea of keeping it 20, 30, 50 years and just paying yourself back. Everybody's going to have healthcare costs, you know what I mean? And the
Mhm.
HSA can be used for Medicare premiums too. Does that answer your question, Jen?
It does. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Dustin, you had something?
Yeah. Do you know if Viasat can transfer my HSA deposit to another disc custodian?
And to another account, like another HSA account? Is that what you're
Yeah.
asking? I
Yeah.
don't. I
So
bet they. Go
so
ahead.
right now, it deposit to my HSA account in who do we have? Anthem.
Yeah.
Um, and I wanted to open up my account in Fidelity, let's say.
Yeah.
Can't they transfer it to Fidelity?
I bet they can't. I bet Fidelity probably can, even without. But that's I need to look that up. But I'm betting they can, and I'm betting Fidelity probably can do that without even, because just like you can do that with other accounts, where you could have, Fidelity pull your Vanguard account or whatever over into Fidelity. I'm betting it's similar to that, but I'd have to check. And then you can hit up just uh, wellness, and they're pretty responsive, and they'll let you know as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Alan, for our Anthem one, I haven't used it yet, but they have an option to save and document an expense to submit later.
Nice.
Just another spot to
Another spot.
put
That's
that.
yep.
Yeah.
That's great. I would also keep do your due diligence though, and keep your own, like
Right.
files in since you have a copy, because I don't trust in Power or Anthem.
Right. Yep. I'm just saying, just
Yep, no, that's good.
another
Yep.
spot to have it,
Okay, no, that's great.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions here? Okay. The Roth IRA, that's my favorite. It does require income to contribute, but it's got, like I said, it's the funds that you can get, ETFs, whatever, super cheap, very low expense ratios. There's no RMDs. And like I said, hopefully, people that haven't completed their 2025 contributions, you've got until tax day to get that $7,000 for 2025. And if you turn 50 in 2025, that's an additional 1,000. The catch-up contributions are now going to be adjusted, indexed for inflation. So this year went up to 7,500, and then the catch-up is 1,100. So that's $8,600 into the Roth IRA that you could put, or traditional. But I'm a big fan of the Roth. And you can and should contribute to both the 401k and your IRA. Okay, here's the limits.
Hey, Alan.
Yeah.
Is there an option on the website to say this is for catch up, or is this
No.
just okay?
Some plans do. It depends on each one. The Viasat plan doesn't, and but if you want that catch, and here's one of the important things, because I was going to bring that up here. If you in 2025, if you made 145K in salary, or compensation, not just RSUs, all that counts, then starting in 2026, your catch-up contributions have to be Roth. And so that's where kind of what Dustin is leading towards is, can you separate out like what's regular contributions, what's catch-up contributions? And some have that, a lot don't. And if they don't, but I already did the calculation though. So if you wanted to do, let's say you wanted to do all pre-tax for your 24,500, but you wanted 8,000 in that, had to be Roth, it's 25%. So whatever, let's say you're gonna, let's just use an easy numbers, 20%, you're gonna withhold 20% total of your paycheck to go to your 401k. 5% of that would need to be Roth, and then the 15% could be pre-tax. And now those numbers would work out to where if you maxed out the salary deferral of 24,500 and the catch-up of 8,000, you would you would meet that all the catch up would be Roth. That makes sense?
It's not I'm not really concerned about the separation. My question was more towards of how do I know my contribution is the catch up?
It's that you
So if let's say if I go to the website, I go to the website and it says, hey, contribute to this much percentage to traditional, this much percentage to Roth. How do I know how do I add more for catch up? You know what I mean?
Well, it shows a ladder of what you're based on your contribution percentage, how much you're going to contribute each month, and where you're going to go at to where you max it out, and it'll show your max allowed, and what you're going to do. So it'll show you that, and the plan knows your age, so it knows the year you turn 50 and beyond that you have those catch-up contributions available, and then you can see there under the contributions area, you can see whether you're meeting that full-on salary deferral and the catch-up contributions. Does that make sense?
Okay. I mean, it'll tell you what the max is, but it doesn't tell you what which contribution it is. It doesn't specify
It doesn't.
catch up.
Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't, and it only shows like it breaks down Roth contributions, pre-tax contributions, and employer contributions, but it doesn't break down what's catch-up and what's not. So.
Yeah, that was what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, but like I said, what I would do, just look at the numbers, and it's if you need 25% though if you're going to max out both the entire with a salary of last year of 145K or higher, you have to do starting 2026 those catch ups in Roth. So make sure 25% of your total contribution is Roth.
Okay.
Okay, but if you don't do more than 24.5, you don't need to do any Roth, obviously. Okay, I put 25 limits, income limits, just because people out the window still open for 25 contributions. So it's a sliding scale. If you're single, 165K and above, you cannot contribute directly to a Roth, and it drops from 149.9. You can contribute the max, but then it's proportional to that 15K, how much you can actually contribute to a Roth. Married, same thing. That's not much in California household earnings. So a lot of people will not meet the Roth. The problem is if you have a 401k, if you have an employer plan that you're a part of, look at how low the limits are to make those contributions tax deductible to a traditional IRA. Single, 79 to 89K. Married, 126 to 146K. That's like nothing. So you wouldn't even be able to deduct the taxes. Now you'd have basis in a traditional IRA, and then the rest is getting taxed. That's crap. That's why you need to do the backdoor Roth, which we'll get into. Here's the income limits for 2026 so that you can see and what you can contribute. I also added in here, if one spouse is covered by a plan, here's what your income is that you could still do a tax deductible household income of, and still use it. But I'm a big fan of the Roth, and we'll go into how to do a backdoor Roth IRA conversion. Okay, so this is what it is you take a non-deductible contribution to a traditional IRA. Once it settles in a couple of days, it usually takes a couple of days once it gets into Fidelity or wherever you're at. And then you're just doing a Roth conversion, but it's just cash. It's already after-tax money. It's cash in there, and then you just convert it. So there's zero taxes you pay. Then it's in your Roth IRA, invest it, and tax-free growth for life. So it's awesome, but you can't have pre-tax money in a traditional IRA, in any traditional IRA, to make this worthwhile, because we'll go into that, the pro rata rule. But I like to do this. Like I said, typically the market's up 8 out of 10 years. So January 1st or whatever that first Monday is that you can invest, I put the whole amount for that year in that right then. And then when that money settles, convert it and then invest it. So by January 5th, my money's already working in the Roth IRA, all the money for that current year. So, and then I'll just dollar cost average into a high yield savings account or whatever. That's that I have that money just sitting there ready to put in. Does that make sense? And then you don't have to go back and no, at an A, you're saying no. Okay, you could dollar cost average into a traditional IRA and then convert it at the end of the year or go in and every time convert it. That's a pain in the ass to like, I don't want to do that. So what I'd rather do if I'm going to do a backdoor Roth is I want to put all the money in at once, convert it once, and then invest it and let it grow. So I save the year ahead of time for the upcoming year. January 1st, I throw that money into the traditional IRA, all of it for that current year, and then convert it to Roth, pay zero taxes because it's just after-tax cash, and then invest it in that Roth IRA so that you're growing tax-free.
What do you mean by convert? Like, let's say if I just
you could, it's actually exactly what it's called. So you go into your, who is it, Fidelity, Vanguard, who do you have?
you put me with Fidelity.
Fidelity. Okay, so you go into Fidelity, but if you don't like, look, if your income limits are below this, don't do this. Just contribute directly to the Roth. But
okay,
if you are above those income limits, that's where this comes into play. So then that's why you need both a traditional IRA open and a Roth IRA open. You put all the money non-deductible in the traditional IRA, and there's just a procedure in Fidelity. I actually have a Word document that shows the steps of how to do it at Schwab and Fidelity if you want. But you just go in there and it asks you how much do you want to convert, and hopefully that's the only money you have in there, and you convert all of it. But then you keep that account, the traditional account open, so that the next year you do the same thing. And you keep, you just go in.
rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat, yep.
Okay, cool.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yep.
Why is it better if it's sitting in the Roth than the regular IRA?
Because it's tax-free growth. A traditional IRA is all any gains you get in the traditional IRA, you're going to pay income tax on later.
When you pull it.
When you pull it, yep. And then it's going to be a pain in the butt too if you're over those income limits, like you're on the plan, and that the income limit is so small, as you saw, like 79 to 89K. Now you're going to have some basis, so you have to have some after-tax money in there, but then other money that's going to be taxed, just convert it, and then it's all tax-free. I mean, this is the legal way to avoid taxes. It's beautiful.
Hey, Alan, I didn't realize that I can convert all of my traditional to Roth. I thought there's a penalty associated with that.
There's not. There is. Okay, so you could end up having a penalty if you pay the taxes. Okay, let's go into the pro rata rule now. Dustin's bringing this. So I said if you have pre-tax money that's the IRS has never taxed in any traditional IRA, it's not like you can open up a separate traditional IRA and do that whole backdoor strategy when you've got a bunch of other money in. It aggregates all your traditional IRAs. But let's say you were young and you thought pre-tax IRAs was best, or you rolled a pre-tax 401k into a traditional IRA, and you got $93,000 that's never been taxed. Then you go, hey, I'm going to do this cool backdoor strategy. I'm going to do a non-deductible contribution of $7,000 into that traditional IRA. And I'm just going to, instead of converting the whole thing, I'm just going to convert that $7,000, right? I've already paid taxes on it. It's just cash. Nope. That's not how as soon as that money goes into, as you see, I have the 93K like it's a cup of coffee, and the after-tax contribution is cream. As soon as that money goes in, it's all swirled around and it's all the same. The IRS sees you convert any of that money, that $7,000, you haven't paid tax on 93% of that money. So you're gonna have to pay tax on 93% of the converted amount. That's why you don't want any pre-tax money in it. You can't, that pre-tax money in a 401 in a traditional IRA basically defeats the value of a backdoor Roth. You'll have to pay this taxes. Does that make sense?
How does an IRA get pre-tax money? Because as far as I know, when you open an account, and put money into that IRA, it's your money that's been already been taxed.
So that's because when you do your taxes, if you're within the limits, you could get money back when you do your taxes that deduct that portion that you paid. But Dustin, you would not be able to do this anyway, because you're above the income limits to be able to do a non-deductible to deduct those off your taxes because of the 401k and your salary's above that. So it doesn't matter. But
okay,
people, that's how they do it. It comes out of their checking account, savings, whatever, goes into a traditional IRA. But then when they do their taxes, they get a deductible portion back, so they pay less in taxes. But that's just not that's not what I'd recommend. Because those income limits are so low, most of you cannot even do the deduction anyway. And the thing is, if you mistakenly, I say mistakenly, but if you rolled pre-tax money like a 401k into an IRA, but your current company has a 401k, you can most likely re-roll that traditional IRA into your current 401k. Now you've opened up the ability to do the backdoor Roth again. Make sense?
okay.
Okay, here's another tactic. This is if you're like right near the salary limit. Like what you could do is you could contribute to the pre-tax portion of your 401k because that lowers your taxable income, right? So now if you could do that and lower yourself to where you're actually able to contribute directly to a Roth, then you could contribute to a Roth directly. And then if you wanted more Roth dollars, you could do, most places have an in-plan conversion, and TSP just started that this year, where you can do in-plan Roth conversions of your traditional TSP money to Roth. You have to pay for those taxes separately, by the way, just to make sure. And that's a smart way to do it anyway. But any questions on this? I mean, this is a very limited set of people that could do this because you'd have to be right near that income limit. But it's just another, just another way to try to trick to beat the system legally. Okay, we'll go into this much more. Another topic. This will be its own topic, just because there's different 5-year rules for Roth IRAs versus Roth 401ks, and whether you're 59 and a half or not. But the cool thing about Roth IRAs is when you start pulling that money out, it pulls money contributions first, which you could do at any time. I don't want people spending their Roth IRA dollars now. I mean, that's what you want, that tax-free growth. But if you needed to, you could tax in penalty free. Conversions come out next, which is you can contribute those backdoor Roth conversions we were talking about. Every conversion has a 5-year clock, so that money can be pulled out tax and penalty free after 5 years, and that's each conversion you do. But it pulls all your contributions first, then it goes to conversions, then it goes to earnings, and it goes to earnings on your contributions first, and then earnings on your conversions. So there's a lot, unlike a Roth 401k, it aggregates everything. So it won't pull out your contributions right away. It'll pull out, here's in proportion to what your contributions, earnings, et cetera are, it'll pull those all out the same way. So it's definitely a potential bigger tax burden or penalty. Okay. Let's see, brokerage account. Okay, this is, like I said, this is a tow truck. This is one where you're gonna, this money you can use at any time, and it typically has better capital gains, capital gains tax rates versus traditional 401k and IRA. No restrictions. You can use this money at any time. You just need to be smart about how much capital gains you're going to, get in a single year. And then most people already, if you have employee stock purchase plan or RSUs, you already have a brokerage account. You just might not have realized it. But the same place where you've got your 401k, your IRA, open a brokerage account as well. And that's money that, you can use at all. I think of that as shorter long-term investing, but you want some of each of these buckets: taxable, which is that, tax-free, and tax-deferred. Okay. Here's a couple of ways to get that money before 59 and a half if you need to. We kind of talked about that, but you could do a Roth conversion ladder. If you had, traditional IRA, you could convert some money to Roth, and then in 5 years that money's available for use. The rule of 55 with your employer, the current employer you're at, if you retire, quit the year you turn 55 or later, you can start drawing on that money penalty free. And then there's the 72T, the substantially equal periodic payments. I don't like this in general. But for some people in the FIRE movement have used this, and the problem is it really hurts you if there's a down market. You have no control. Once you set this up, you have to pull at least that money out. And so every year up until normal retirement age, or until you are allowed to pull about 59 and a half. It's just, there's better methods in general, I think. I don't usually recommend this stuff for people. Okay. And this is something I hopefully people are getting wiser about it. But CPAs, one of the problems with CPAs is, and this is how they get you to come back, right? You pay the least in taxes that year. That might not be the smartest thing for you long term. This about lifetime tax planning, because you might pay a little more now to pay way less and save hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes down, throughout your lifetime. So a couple things, we're still, and I'll go into the tax brackets here in a second that are quote permanent, but there's I pointed that last bullet, if the spouse passes away the next year, you're in single, your tax rates could go up significantly, with this, if you had the same income. But these are some ways to, I like using Roth early, and especially in the military, while your income's is building. Then when you get in the higher tax brackets, shift, and maybe do a split or push it all to pre-tax, and then once you retire, start converting it to Roth when you're in the lower tax bracket, and so you pay lower overall. Here's the tax brackets that are permanent. That's pencil permanent, because they were supposed to sunset January 1st, but with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, they've made these, what they call permanent until the next administration changes them again. But these are historically very low tax rates. So it's something to consider when you're thinking about Roth versus traditional and what's going to happen in the future. None of us know for sure. With our deficit and everything else, I believe the taxes rates are going to have to go up at some point. And so here's kind of a look at, this was the tax brackets before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. You see 10, 15, 25, 28, 33, 35, and 39. All of those, except for the 10%, were higher. So the proportional tax rate, even though it's graduated, was noticeably higher. We're still in this, but look at how, look at how much lower our tax rates are than, so maybe you should consider doing a little more Roth. That 24% tax bracket is a very large bracket. So if you can keep, 22% to 24% is only 2%. It's insignificant. 24% to 32%, that's another 8% jump. So if I could keep out of that 32% tax bracket, great. So use pre-tax contributions to try to do that. If you're making so much that, well, I don't pity if you have too much of a salary, you can't. I mean, you know, these are just considerations. What do you think is going to happen with taxes? And nobody complained about tax-free money in their retirement ever. Okay. Oh, and those are up. It's like 15,000. That was old tax rate. 15,200, 200 or 100 for single, and 30,000. Yeah, I think it's 30,400 standard deduction. So many people don't do itemized deductions now. They used to be about 33%. Now, whoops, sorry, I'm already running a little late. Only 10% do them now. Here's another thing. This is the for Medicare and retired military, you have to pay Medicare. That's something they don't tell you. And it's kind of like, oh, we have healthcare for life. No, kind of not. And so we're going to be paying more in our retirement when we hit Medicare age. And this looks at your income, and these cliffs can be pretty significant. These bottom additional pre-taxes, what I'm using, like if you were making so much money down here, this is per person premiums per month. And the difference between the minimum that you pay versus that's additional. These are additional, like what I could say, can only call them really taxes that you're paying. So, okay. Yeah, we talked kind of about this, about Roth conversions. And this you need to know what your income coming in. So you do conversions strategically to stay within a certain tax bracket. So each year you convert a certain amount depending on, you know, what you have. And then we'll go through some things here, but California is just like, is the most expensive tax in terms of state taxes. There is the Senate Bill 1407 that's bipartisan bill legislation that is been submitted that's trying to remove the tax on the military pension. Hopefully it happens, but we'll see. We'll see. But they finally at least got something where up to 20K, if your AGI is 125K or less, if you're single with 250K or less, married, that you don't have to pay in state taxes. But the SDMAC has proven to the state of California, whether they'll listen or not, though, that the exodus of all the retired military from California is costing them more by not living here and promoting, you know, and contributing to the economy than they would get from taxing the pension. But our politicians are probably too stupid to believe it and fix it. But and also, if you make over $1 million, there's additional 1% tax, so it's up to 13.3% tax. Same capital gains rates as income tax rates in California. Here's the states that don't tax the military pension. Kentucky and Oklahoma, there's different rules. Some don't apply because it's like if you retired before 1991 or something like that. It's, you know, so most it doesn't impact. But okay. And then here's, you know, just going to various tax rates. You guys can see these. These slides will be available for download. Okay, here's a different tax rate. The cool thing though, if you don't have a pension or, you know, like it's low income year, you can sell equities up to the 12% tax rate, not pay any taxes on that. I know somebody that just converted their whole TSP to Roth and didn't pay a cent in tax. So things you could take advantage of, capital gains, and taking, you know, in gap years, if you're taking this year off or something, this might be a time where you could sell some of your equities, rebuy them at a higher cost basis, and then you don't pay any taxes. But now later on, when you actually want to use that money and sell later, you won't have as much of a gain. Save yourself a lot in taxes there. Okay, anything else? Okay, whoops, this is updated, sorry. So our updated Social Security now with 184,000, that's what, if your earnings are up to, they'll tax you on Social Security up to $184,500. And Medicare, it's infinite. All your money gets taxed on that. And California also, their SDI taxes is unlimited. Okay, and here we talked a little bit just about buckets. This is, you know, I'm not saying it should be a third, but you want money in each of these pools. And your brokerage account, your Roth, and your traditional. Why do you want some traditional? Well, just like that standard deduction, if you just pulled out enough for the standard deduction from a traditional IRA, you would pay 0 taxes on that if that was your only income. So that means if you have everything in Roth, you've paid too much in taxes at some point. So having this provides flexibility in how you spend. So large purchases, you don't want to do all traditional, but you can balance these out to minimize your tax burden over time. Sadly, too many people, especially early on, and this is partly because Roth IRAs didn't start till 1998. And heck, TSP, I know it was 2013 before you could even do Roth contributions. So a lot of people, especially near retirement, older than us, are stuck with huge pre-tax 401ks and IRAs, and they're going to be in a hurt locker taxes, as we've already shown, like by those RMDs. You can be in an uncontrollable tax rate, basically. Okay, and the rule of 72, this is just always something I think it's important. If you take your rate of return, let's say 8%, that's a common one to use, and you were able to divide that into 8 into 72, that determines basically the amount of time your money will take to double without any additional contributions. So 8 into 72, that's 9 years. 9 years, your money will double, and then double and double. And it's one thing I think too many people go too conservative too quickly, and they miss that last doubling, which is the most important part. Instead of going from 10,000 to 20,000, you're talking 2 million to 4 million, et cetera. So that's what I don't like about target date funds, because they do the same thing. They go way too conservative too fast. Okay, and then this is like, I know it's important to help your children out, but you got to put on your oxygen mask first. There's no loans for retirement, but there is for school. So be smart. And then here's just some homework if you haven't done already. A couple of things always early in the year, I want people to check their, make sure they've checked subscriptions and canceled things, but check your beneficiaries on their accounts. That's always an important thing to do, just to check, because it does that has priority over trusts, wills, everything else is your beneficiaries. Okay, any questions? If you guys don't mind doing a quick survey, it's just a few questions. Unfortunately, most people already left. Went over.
Hi,
Yep.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So I want to do my Roth IRA contributions for 2025, and I already did my taxes. Will I need to do like amendment? I didn't pay any taxes, so I don't know if that will affect it.
No, you'll get a 5498 later, but you can still go in and contribute, because when you contribute anyways, and just make sure you select the right year, because it'll have a drop down, Misty, on if it's 2025 or 2026. Pick 2025. Don't go over 7,000 total, but that's all after tax money anyway, because it's coming out of your checking account or savings account, right, or whatever. So it's after tax money, and then you've already done your taxes, so it doesn't matter. But you'll get a 5498 later that'll show how much you contributed to that, and then if you do later on down the road doing backdoor conversions, you'll see that. Wouldn't sweat it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yep, you're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, thanks. Sorry it went over, but there was some good questions. I've been trying to get better about finishing on time. But
thank you, Alan.
Okay, thanks, Nate.
Thank you, Alan.
Yep, thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
have a great day and have a good weekend. See you next month.
Thanks, Alan.